Hey, if you're thinking about starting a new trucking business in the midst of what looks like a coming recession here in 2022, I want to outline why I think that's actually a great time to start a trucking business and why the time could be right here just in the coming months as we see some of the key data in the trucking industry kind of roll over and what that's going to probably mean for you and why it might actually be the perfect time to start a trucking business. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to really show you the numbers by using our trucking financial projection template here that I'm going to link to in the description of the video below. But first, my name is Adam Hoeksema. I'm the co-founder of ProjectionHub. We help entrepreneurs create financial projections for investors and lenders. And over the years, we've helped hundreds of trucking businesses create projections and secure funding to be able to start their business. And I think really now is a great time, or very soon here will be a great time to get started. So I'm going to show you what I found. So the first thing I want to show you here is this article, this trucking industry will be in trouble if demand drops to pre-COVID levels. I'm going to show you some of the data here that's really interesting. So total count of trucks from fleets authorized for hire in the US. So you can see this is just starting into 2022. We're up to 1.77 million trucks available for hire, coming up from 1.6 million here back just in July of 2021. So we've seen quite the increase here with new trucking businesses getting started. We all know about what gas prices are doing. So diesel fuel, you can see the price is skyrocketing. So that's a challenge. This actually shows you the total count of new fleets authorized for hire. So this is really more about the number of businesses. That first number was the number of trucks that we looked at up here. Yeah, so this is the number of trucks. But then this is really more a sign of the number of trucking businesses that have started. And so you can see that has just been on a tear. And that's probably a lot of individual, one person, one trucker starting their own business. And so this has lots of new entrants bought at the top of the market. Now, this is what is showing us that, yeah, we're probably going to recession, at least for the trucking industry. This is outbound tender reject index, and it's a little complicated, but what it means here, it says tender reject index tracks the number of loads in the contract market that are rejected by carriers. The higher the rejections, the more pricing power the carriers have. So up here, this is saying, when it's green like this, it's saying that truckers, the carriers, are saying, no, we don't want that load. They can be more picky, they can be more choosy about the loads that they want to take. And as that drops into the red zone, that means that there's less pickiness in terms of loads, and truckers are not rejecting as many load opportunities. And so that typically means recession. So we can also see the purchase prices of trucks, have really just increased substantially. So you can see down here back in early 2021, these numbers, this is probably in the 65,000 range for a 3-year-old truck, where now we're at 136,000 in February of 2022. And so what I wanted to do is show you really why that makes such a difference using our trucking template. So if we look at this, our trucking template here, I'm on the input assumptions tab. Right here, we're going to say, okay, we're going to purchase a truck, and I had found this purchase price, 110,686 was the average used semi-truck purchase price. And let's say that we put basically $10,000 down, 10% down, and we finance $100,000 of that truck. So when we do that, and I'll just run through this real quick. You can see I put in some just standard assumptions on the number of days per week that you'll be able to operate, the maximum number of miles driven, what capacity you'll be at, average revenue per mile that you generate, your variable costs like fuel, maintenance, repairs, broker fees, those sorts of things. We also have some base expense numbers in here, kind of industry standard expenses for a trucking business. And then also the ability to add a salary position. I'm going to remove this dispatcher because let's just assume it's just you, just one person in a truck, you're doing the driving, so we're going to remove that salary. And when we come here, we're going to see our at a glance that we're showing a net income of 30,000. And the key thing I wanted to point out here, so this is the cash flow statement, and this row right here says cash paid for loan interest expense, because we borrowed $100,000 to pay for that truck. So we've got our loan interest expense, and then here we have cash paid for loan principal. And I've added those two expenses together right here, and that totals $30,415. So that is for, that that imaginary person that bought a truck last year for $100, or maybe right now for $110,000 and financed $100,000 of it. Now, what happens when the trucking industry starts to roll over? And as we were seeing in that data, that boy, it's probably going to come back down. Demand's starting to flip into that red zone, and so those truckers that have very expensive trucks relative to trucks that were purchased even just a year or two ago, they're going to have challenges. And so probably what's going to happen is they are most likely to be the ones that are going to go out of business. They're too highly leveraged. They're probably going to go out of business. They're going to need to sell their trucks. And when that happens, they're going to sell those used trucks into a recessionary environment, and those truck prices are probably going to come down. Those used truck prices are going to come down. So I saw that an article here, and I'm going to see if I can pull this back up. So this was a separate article that says, right here, 3 to 5 year old trucks sold for an average of 6% more in February than in January. Trucks in this age group brought 77.6 more money in the first 2 months of 2022 than the same period of 2021. So in other words, the price of a used truck went up by 77% from early 2021 to early 2022. So what I thought I would do is just, let's just remind ourselves of this dollar amount right here, $30,415. And if we came back to this assumptions and we just changed one thing and we said, let's make this truck $65,000, and let's say we financed $50,000 instead of $100,000. If we come back to this cash flow, we see that change to $18,249. So in other words, it went from $30,000 to $18,000. In other words, you're saving $1,000 a month just in financing the truck. Just because prices went up on those trucks by 77% last year, those that got in last year are going to be paying $1,000 a month. So more than those that got in, in early 2021. So the point here is that I think probably in the coming months, we're going to start to see those used truck prices come back down. And that means it's probably actually a great time to consider getting into the trucking industry, because so much of your kind of profitability and cash flow ability is really dependent on the price you pay for that truck. If you're paying $110,000 compared to $50,000 or $60,000 for a truck, it really makes a big difference in the numbers. It's $1,000 more a month in take-home pay that you can bring home yourself. So that's what I wanted to hit on. I think right now could be a good time to consider getting into the trucking business, even when people are having the worst time of it and exiting the trucking business. That's really probably the time to consider getting in. And what you can do is you can plan well, and don't overpay for the truck. Maybe find some outside income that you can generate some outside income if things are a little bit slow for a while. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you survive until that trucking industry is kind of bottomed, and then ride that, hopefully that long wave back up as things build back up. That's where you can really make your money in the trucking industry. So again, if you have interest in creating some projections for your own trucking business, check out that template in the description below. And also love it if you like the video and subscribe to our channel so you can get more content like this as we try to help people, entrepreneurs, start and launch their business. Thanks.